Strixhaven is one of the most unique, important, and mysterious settings in all of Magic that not only has a massive impact on everything happening in the multiverse right now, but also is filled to the brim with powerful and very broken characters that we then get to put into our decks. So today I want to break down everything that you and I need to know about the school, its origins, and its crazy future. The Founding of Strixhaven. So, at the heart of the School of Strixhaven's identity are 5 Elder Dragons, each one representing a different philosophy of magic and, more importantly, a different mana contradiction. Different enemy pairs of mana combined in very contrasting ways like life and death, art and math, and order and chaos. You kind of get the gist, right? And that's because the dragons birthed from the creation of the plane itself are actually all buddies and decided to create a big magical school together. When the plane that Strixhaven is located on, called Arcavios, first came into existence, it was actually created as the product of 2 different planes colliding, which then caused these chaotic snarls of opposing mana, where reality itself struggled to settle. And from 5 of the most powerful snarls, by the way, that's the term that Wizards uses, not me, emerged these freaking massive luminous spheres, but they were not spheres. Turns out that these were eggs. Big cosmic eggs, each of them hatching an Elder Dragon. And these 5 Elder Dragons then became living embodiments of Arcavios' core frisky magical tension, and each of them represented the 5 opposing mana, I guess, philosophies that define the entire plane. Now, like all good Elder Dragons, looking at you, Chromian and Palladia Morse, these 5 new Elder Dragons did not trust people who used magic, but over time, they realized that all the funky, untrained magic was far more dangerous than, actually having some disciplined study with it. So in a very ambitious effort to guide and control the use of magic on the plane, they founded Strixhaven University. And each of the dragons themselves are the names of the individual colleges based on their own ideologies. Galazeth Prismari, the force behind the Prismari school of red and blue mana, believed that magic was expression, something emotional and explosive meant to be felt as much as understood. Shadrick Silverquill oversaw white and black mana. The Silverquill school's emphasis is control and precision, viewing magic as a living language. Their views are kind of to see magic as having both positive and negative language manifesting in the white and black mana. Beledros Witherbloom understands magic as life itself, something cyclical, messy, and inseparable from death. Hence, the Witherbloom College's green and black mana focus. Velomachus, the goat Lorehold, had dominion over red and white mana and viewed magic as it exists throughout history, believing that the past was not dead, but something that actively can inform the present and the future. And the last of the 5, Kyle Davis, does magic math with green and blue mana. Oh, whoops, no, that's my accountant. The Elder Dragon is named Tanazir Quandrix. It's a system of rules that could be understood, calculated, and eventually mastered, bringing life and control into the literal equation. Now, looking at these 5 ideologies, the big kicker here is of course that none of these dragons are 100% right, hence Strixhaven's whole existence, because it's a school devoted to understanding these contradictions, growing, evolving, and essentially battling one another for magical supremacy. The school's structure. Structurally speaking, Strixhaven operates like a high-level magical university. It's kind of a lot bigger than the Tolarian Academy on Dominaria, and I mean, it definitely is just, the Hogwarts of Magic the Gathering. It even has its own Quidditch equivalent, which is Mage Tower. But unlike Quidditch, Mage Tower did not break out into the real life, and there are not hundreds of real-life people pretending to be wizards at colleges and universities around the planet. So, admittedly, I'll side with Mage Tower for staying fictional as it's supposed to be. Now, all students that come arrive as generalists, learning foundational magic before then committing to one of the 5 colleges. And that decision then shapes everything. No, Literally, it changes how they cast spells, how they interpret the world, and even how they define success for themselves. And the faculties kind of reflect the same diversity. Professors aren't just teachers, they're specialists, philosophers, and in many cases, living embodiments of their college's ideology. Take Augusta, Dean of Order, for example here. She represents the rigid, structured side of Lorehold, the belief that history must be carefully preserved and respected. But even she exists in tension with Lorehold's more impulsive side, which wants to use history to save the future rather than simply archive and study it. And recently, she actually has become a literal spirit after dying in the Phyrexian invasion of Strixhaven, further identifying with Lorehold's actual magic of calling and returning spirits from history from legendary artifacts. The new prominent planeswalker, Dalian Fell, is another great example. He's a professor who literally died, came back to life 13 months later, and had a nasty craving in the back of his mind because he's the living embodiment of life and death and maybe a sneaky vampire? Now, once students actually pick their school, they're provided 2 mentors, each representing one of the philosophies of that school. So if you joined, say, Lorehold, you'd get a mentor for red and a mentor for white, each guiding you and helping you determine which side you want to go to, and sometimes you can still even just choose both. Killian here is actually a great example of a mentor, a former student from the original Strixhaven set that has a new card now, Killian Decisive Mentor, that shows him becoming a mentor at the school for other students. As for the professors, there are a couple of different ranks, I guess, that I wanted to go over here quickly. You've got instructors, who are basically the up-and-coming teachers. They kind of run their own classes and teach students, but they're still being evaluated before they earn full professor status. Think of them as very talented and more than students, but still very much proving themselves. Then there are professors, which is where most of the faculty sits. These are established mages who've fully committed to a specific field of magic. If you're learning at Strixhaven, odds are very high you're being taught by one of these guys. Above them, you've then got the esteemed professors. These guys are the veterans, the ones who've been around for decades, published research, made discoveries, and basically cemented their legacy. If a professor has a reputation, this is where they're gonna land. Now, above that, things get a little bit more interesting with the deans. Each college has 2 deans, and they usually represent opposing philosophies within that college. These guys are usually incredibly powerful, highly respected, and constantly, and that's the most important part, need to be disagreeing with each other. You know, it's less leadership team and much more ongoing debate here. And finally, and you'll recognize these from the latest Strixhaven set, there are the Mages Emeritus, retired professors who don't actually teach anymore but still show up as guest lecturers, and when they do, people listen and cast some crazy broken spells. May I interest you in casting Ancestral Recall repeatedly? Sounds pretty nice, right? The university's great purpose. Alright, so the actual societal impact of Strixhaven's existence is actually crazy interesting. It doesn't produce just one type of mage that then goes on to like serve Arcavius or fight a war like the Tolarian students did when it was first founded. Instead, Strixhaven produces specialists, people who see the world through a very specific lens of their chosen half of their school. That's right, even when you're a student or a professor, you don't represent both ideals of your college, you then pick one and really hunker down on it despite using both types of mana. And then these students go on to do a bunch of extremely different things. Some graduates stay within academia, becoming researchers, historians, or even professors at Strixhaven themselves. Others leave the plane of Arcavios entirely, traveling across the multiverse to planes or regions to test their magic in real-world environments. Liliana here is a perfect example of a very powerful alumna who roamed the multiverse, did some stuff and then came back to teach. Or my boy, Quandrix Kant, who became an archaeologist after awakening his own spark and is now actively uncovering a multi-plane race of ancient invaders, but we'll talk more about that in my next video on that guy. But something that I personally found really interesting is that there are actually also more structured paths. Certain students, for example, join magical defense forces. Arcavius' own Dragon Guard is a great example of this. More combat-oriented students can join their ranks, defending the plane from invasion or plane-borne threats. Some others become public figures. Prismari and Silverquill graduates in particular often move into roles where influence matters a lot. You know, performers, speakers, political advisors, even propagandists. We love ourselves a good propagandist here. And then there are the experimentalists. Particularly Witherbloom and Quandrix students very frequently tend to push boundaries. You know, because they're already used to exploring life manipulation, mathematical reality, magical systems that aren't fully understood yet, all that good jazz. But surely after having heard all of this, you now probably want to hear more about the schools themselves bit by bit, so let me cover these, starting with Witherbloom, green and black. Witherbloom is easily the most misunderstood college, just like that subscribe button down in the corner. You see it? It's red with embarrassment hiding. Come on, give it a little click. Make it gray. It'll feel more comfy. All right, thank you. Now, at first glance, it looks very dark, right? With all these stinky swamps, decay, and the flavors of necromancy. But that's only because some people tend to separate life and death as opposites. Witherbloom, though, doesn't. To them, life and death are part of the same equation. Growth requires decay, healing requires sacrifice, power always comes from somewhere. And I really think that no one embodies that idea better than Dina, who recently elevated from Soul Steeper to Essence Brewer with her newest cart. She's a dryad who studies death magic and nature magic through fun brews and potions. Everyone's favorite goth mommy classic planeswalker Liliana Vess is another proud alumna, returned to teach as a professor of the necromantic side of Witherbloom. We even have, look at that, a new exchange student from Lorwyn, Liu Wen, who is at the thick center of Secrets of Strixhaven's new lore. Lorehold, red and white. Speaking of lore, there is Lorehold, the school that I was sorted into when I took the official fun little quiz on the Magic the Gathering website. You should let me know what you are. Now, these guys here are lore historians actively searching for ancient history to either archive it or prepare for the future with it. Now, this place is a college built on the idea that the past is very much still alive, whether through spirits, artifacts, or lingering magical imprints, and they use spirit magic to conjure up ancient spirits and discover crazy lore bombs through that. But within Lorehold, there's also a constant divide. On one side, you have preservation, the idea that history should be respected, recorded, and protected. And on the other, you have action, the belief that history is a tool, something to be used and even weaponized. Gotta say, I personally don't like that side as much. Professors like Augusta, Dean of Order, represent that first perspective. You'll never guess what mana color that is. Structure, discipline, and respect for the past. But the latest teacher of Lorehold, Johnny Goldmane, is all about action, using research and discovery quite actively to prepare for threats in the future. The current ace of Lorehold, though, is none other than my boy, Quandrix Kant. He's uncovering ancient civilizations that could reshape reality, and he's actually doing so by blending both the archival and the active principles that Lorehold mages stand by. Prismari, red and blue. Prismari is the art school of Strixhaven, basically, focusing on the chaos that is passion. Prismari students often struggle with balance. Too much control and the magic loses its spark, but put too much emotion and passion into it all and it becomes destructive. Now, despite this odd and admittedly a little bit more expressive vibe, there are some very powerful mages that come from Prismari, and they shouldn't be counted out. The Kenrith twins, for instance, former planeswalkers Rowan and Will, were Prismari students, and a new prominent player is Rutha, a very talented orc sorceress that's going through some struggles right now after the recent Phyrexian invasion of the plane. Fun little fact here, she's the reason that Quintorius became a planeswalker. You'll find out all about that in my upcoming Quintorius video, which is hella fun for everyone. Silverquill, black and white. Then we've got Silverquill, the school of words, which usually isn't too scary compared to, like, I don't know, fireballs and necromancy death magic, but in the politically charged multiverse that is Magic the Gathering, the students of Silverquill that learn the art of influence are actually some of Strixhaven's honestly most powerful mages out there. Now, ironically, not everything is quite so black and white when it comes to Silverquill. Magic here is tied to language, rhetoric, and emotional manipulation. Students of the college learn how to inspire, intimidate, persuade, and dismantle others using words as their primary weapon, and sometimes also ink magic, which is honestly pretty cool. Who doesn't like themselves some good inklings? By the way, Ink Shield, pretty broken card, you should put it in your deck if you have black and white. And this brings us to Killian Liu, a former key student from Strixhaven's first run and son of Dean Ambrose Liu, the dean of the black mana side of Silverquill. This guy uses all that sick ink magic to unleash devastating magical attacks, but also isn't exactly strong enough to fend off hordes of enemies at the same time. Like, his influence, mentorship, and decisiveness are actually his real strengths, opting to be a little bit nicer, but using that sharp wit whenever necessary. There's even a new guest lecturer at Strixhaven from this school, Rel Zarek. Wait, no, that seems super wrong. Shouldn't you be blue and red? Shouldn't you be over at Prismari or something? Wait, he's from Ravnica. Like, how is he mono black now? Something fishy is going on here, but nonetheless, this version of Rel Zarek is a powerful attorney from Ravnica trying to get his hold on a book. To be more precise, the Accounts of the Dawning Age, Vortex Formations, and Ego Magical Adaptation, the story of Arcavios' 5 Elder Dragons. Quandrix, blue and green. Okay, so Quandrix is where things get a little bit weird, and mostly because math. Like, this college treats magic as a system of equation, something that can be understood, broken down, and ultimately controlled through logic. To a Quandrix mage, reality isn't fixed, it's flexible, and if you understand the formula well enough, well, you can change the outcome. As you might have already guessed from that, students here tend to manipulate space, create fractals, and alter probabilities. It's very abstract, but if you know anything about statistics, it's also incredibly powerful, exactly because most people don't understand it, including me. That's why I'm not in here. And it also produces some of the most forward-thinking mages in Strixhaven. Tam, a major player from Lorwyn's story, is also a student of Quandrix, and she's at the heart of some very messy lore too. So I'd say, unless you want to hear more about math in this particular college, let's get into all that lore stuff, because somehow this little Gorgon here is at the center of the Secrets of Strixhaven. Secrets of Strixhaven. Alright, so what's going on? What are we doing? Why is there a new Rel Zarek? How come when I read the lore postings, Ajani is now fighting Chandra, who is leading the Auric, aka the evil Voldemort-style bad wizards from the original Strixhaven block? Why does Chandra keep saying that Jace is at the center of all the bad things happening in this set block? And does any of this have anything to do with that white mana Liliana that we met at the end of Lorwyn's story, which was also very weird in its own right? Yes, it does, and to put it really simply, Jace Beleren seems to be creating his own evil school, Hexhaven, and it's full of opposite-colored mana characters from throughout Magic's history. A mono-white mana Liliana, a mono-black Rel Zarek, and Jace himself is becoming a mono-white mage of control and order. It's very weird, it's messy, and that's the secret at the heart of Strixhaven. Reality Fracture, the next big set of the main Magic sets coming this year, will likely revisit all these big reveals from Strixhaven, and I absolutely recommend that you read all the crazy lore of Lorwyn Eclipsed and Secrets of Strixhaven to fully uncover it, but essentially, what is happening in the background of this set is the foundations of the next set. So, Jace manipulated Tam, the Quandrix mage, to help create a big mess at the end of this set. This was all built up and a massive fight broke out against the Dawning Archaic, a massive beast that several students and teachers teamed up to clash with. Now this actually happens because Chandra is left in shambles after Jace essentially magically lobotomized her doing Ether Drift, and she's trying to fight against this multiversal threat that is Jace, who was consumed by the meditation plane, exploding at the end of Tarkir Dragonstorm. But it does seem like Jace, the multiverse sculptor, needs information on how Strixhaven was formed, and that's why he sent Rel Zarek, his new Rel Zarek, to Strixhaven so he could steal the book detailing its origins. Please tell me if you'd like a big lore video on things like this in the future, as these are the first sets coming out as I make videos. I'd love to know what content you guys are actually looking for on the channel. Just let me know. I'm very happy for feedback. And if you're looking for more lore on the baddest teacher at Strixhaven, you should check out all of Liliana's story right here. It's easily one of my favorite videos I've made so far, and she's got some key secrets I think will be very important for Reality Fracture 2. Otherwise, enjoy drafting. This is a super fun set. I'll see you in the next video.